John, how are things? I suppose the injury update first. There are chances of seeing Tadhg and Tom this week, and I presume Ryan is out, is he?
Ryan is out, yeah. And the two boys are back in and trained today, so hopefully they'll get through the week.
How is Tadhg looking?
Good, full of energy. So yeah, he got through the session today, and he'll be assessed as we go along. But I'd say bullish. You know, he's eager to get back and excited to be around the team again. It's lonely when you're outside of that, you know. So excited to be around the team, and we're excited as well, you know.
I suppose from the outside looking in, you think maybe Fiji week is a chance to make wholesale changes. Do you see many changes this week, or do you have to kind of, you know, be wary of not making too many?
I think it's important that we're doing right by everyone in our side, continuing to look for a performance. You know, Fiji have improved. We played them 2 years ago, and they've certainly improved. And you see that through the Wales game. They didn't have quite a full side out in that Scotland match, but they're a dangerous side. So it's important, again, like I said, we're focusing on developing a good performance, and Andy and ourselves will select accordingly, you know.
I know Andy mentioned the weekend you need to do better, stuff like ruthless edge. What are the work-ons this week? What do you need to do better in particular? I think the time you have is stressed in international rugby, and I think if we talk about being ahead of the game, nice and early to in attack and defence, so we can make good decisions, so that we're not on the wrong side of referees. So I think a general sharpness for us to get ahead of the game. I think that's important, and it comes from clarity of plan and execution. You know, scanning up, seeing both in attack and defence, and executing. So yeah, I think that's something that we'll focus on, making sure that we're ahead of the game in attack and defence, and we bring a sharpness to what we're doing, so that we're not late into a ruck or offside in a tackle, or you know, we don't miss opportunities to strike. So we're seeing all the opportunities and taking them. Thank you.
Hi John. On Tadhg Furlong, was it a case last week where he could potentially have been available if he really had to, or would he, was that game just a little bit too early for him?
I never heard any of he couldn't, they won't mess about with the players. He's back on time. I think he's ready to go. So no, I don't think if he was back last week and he was ready to go, he'd be up for selection, and then coaches will decide. But no, he's ready to go now, or he's ready. He's back in training, and he's gotten through training today.
And how happy were you with how Tom Clarkson went at the weekend?
Oh, I was delighted. Yeah, Tom. We went on an EI tour a couple of years ago, and he's a great character. He does a few things really well at scrum time, and you know, he came in as a guide that we were looking for the future, and circumstances allowed him to go on the field last week. Amazing. Cian won 3-3, and Tom getting one. It was an incredibly exciting week to be a scrum coach, to watch both those things happen. I thought Tom did a good job, and he certainly will take his learnings from it. And it's always exciting when you get an Irish tight head onto the field, and hopefully he'll take everything that he's learned and push on. That's what we need. I've said it before. We want every front rower in the country to step up, and Thomas stepped up in this camp, and I'm delighted he got capped.
Someone else you mentioned just there as well, Cian, who plays this weekend. It'll be magic number 134. He'll have the record all for himself.
Yeah.
I'm thinking in the back of my head, you just about overlapped in terms of playing days.
We did. Yeah, we did.
Coaching him, so obviously you've a good insight into him down the years.
An amazing character. I was excited when I got to Leinster. One of the things I was excited about was to be around someone like Cian, a young guy coming through, so explosive. A little bit different to what was happening at loose heads across the country, or across Europe anyway, and he's an exceptional guy, isn't he? His mindset, his mentality is different than the majority. He's an incredible competitor, and it sets him apart. There's times when
over the years when I was coaching in Leinster, he'd come up to me and say, we should be going through these. Whether I was a bit attentive when I'm talking about the opposition, we need to make sure we do this. If we don't do this, they'll catch us. Keane would come up to me and say, we won't do that. We're going to go through them. And I loved his mentality, his competitiveness, and he still has that. He's in no way slowing down mentally. He's trying to learn from week to week. He's trying to grow, and he's competitive. So it's incredible. It's incredible. The day we played against Scotland, I know I'm rambling, but he deserves the chat. The day we played in Scotland, and I'm in panic mode because the 2 hookers go down, and we're asking Keane to go into hooker, and not knowing what's going to happen. But again, like I said, his mentality, he's clear in his mind. He's going to be competitive. He'll do things to the best of his ability. And to step in an international rugby game as a hooker, it says so much about him. I think we got 2 scrum penalties that day on the back of Keane playing in the hooker slot. So an incredible guy. He's not done yet.
Thanks a lot, Paul.
John, are you concerned with the penalty count heading into this game?
I think it's important that we're staying on top of things. Like I said, I think historically, or the last 10 years, discipline is something that Ireland would be known to be good at. So I think it's important that we're aware. The ones that are in our control, and sometimes that's a half second too late to a ruck, and now you're in a croc roll. So it's just about understanding ourselves and making sure we're on top of it. Coaches have addressed during the week. The playing group themselves are hyper aware, and I think in general, like I spoke before, some sharpness around what we're doing puts us in a good position, and we're confident we can get ahead of that.
And just on Fiji, you said they're a dangerous side. Where exactly do you see their threats?
Well, their ability one-on-one to there's always this impression they're going to throw the ball around, and they'll use the whole width of the pitch, which they will, but they're physical, really, really physical, and I think that's something that can catch teams by surprise, and we need to, defensively, we need to make sure we're not too we're worried about the width, but we're also worried about the physicality front up. So we need to be able to cover both. So there's threats across the pitch, and but the physicality at which they play at is a huge threat, I would say.
Last 2 questions here, and then Marie, and then we'll break for the embargo section, please.
Sorry, John, just to take you back to Cian Healy, there's an awful lot of talk about his character and his mentality, but could you just speak about his technical ability to be able to be an international, as said, but as you say, switch to hooker and be listed as tight head as well? Right.
His ability. So there's a few things: flexibility and strength through movement is different again to other players. He's incredibly strong on different levels, different planes, and his ability at loose head to get his hip height to a really good height, so he can launch into loose heads or into tight heads, and then for his overall strength, upper body strength, and his hip strength as a tight head to stay in a good strong position so that he can put pressure down on top of a loose head. He's got a range of abilities, but what connects him is his mentality. He's not afraid. He's not afraid to try things over the years. He's unique, and we're lucky. I feel incredibly lucky to have to be alongside him and watch some of it. It's an incredible number, 133 for a loose head tight head hooker.
Last question of this section from Murray.
John, obviously great to beat Argentina. It's been a little bit maybe of a frustrating campaign so far. What gives you confidence as a coaching group that the best is ahead in the next couple of weeks?
The players own their stuff. They don't hide away from any conversations or from the reality of things. So I guess the ownership that's happening off the field, that always happens. It always happens. That's what gives you confidence. I think we've played 2 good teams, and they've played their part in putting us under pressure, and it's brilliant. It's not a negative. We don't see it as a negative. We see it as a challenge to make sure that we're on top of what we need to do to put a performance that our supporters and everyone here can be proud of, and that's what we're trying to do. So, yeah, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes.
it hasn't been too frustrating at camp. We've enjoyed ourselves. We always do enjoy ourselves in camp. I love it. Yeah, it's brilliant.